Cool. So welcome, Lisa. So nice to have you here. Uh, as we go through today, what I think is the fastest way to accelerate your business as a coach, a consultant, an expert practitioner, especially in the kind of conscious business development space. So what I'm hopefully going to show you is it's kind of what the journey looks like, but also what are the shortcuts and what are the ways that we can really accelerate your growth. So we'll start. We see there's three summits. We'll start with money. I like to start with the money. Like, let's just jump in there. Let's make some money. And how do we get some money? It's by talking to people with problems on money and then helping them get something that they don't already have. Right. And so we're going to look at that. Influence is then the second summit. And the way, we've got these kind of clouds over here. The reason there's clouds over there is because a lot of there's uncertainty about who your customer is. What is the problem that they have? What can you offer them instead? And what is the internal vocabulary that the way they describe their problem? And those are the fundamental ingredients in your marketing strategy, is understanding from their perspective, what is it that they want that they don't have? And as you start to understand that, you suddenly, it seems as if you pop up out of the clouds out of nowhere with this fully formed, amazing program. And we start to then accelerate even further. And then the last horizon is time. We actually start to take these things, put them into systems so that you don't have to be the system anymore. And that's the last summit, is where you're able to let go and stop being the system and stop being the glue, but start having systems and be able to, really live a life that live a life of impact, but also of abundance, right? Because one of my favorite quotes from a guy called Jim Rohn is that you can have anything in life as long as you help enough other people get what they want. So you can have whatever you want as long as you help people get what they want. And that is where we're going to start the journey today, is going right down into your offer. And what we'll start over here is then the first two elements of this is your ideal client and their dream outcome. Everything, your entire business, the entire outreach, your entire marketing is contingent upon those two great things. Who is it that you want to work with, and what is their ideal outcome? What is the thing that you can offer them? And that's where we're going to start with the two building blocks today. The other elements, will do additional training on the rest of the elements of the offer, but I'll touch on a little bit about them today, especially as it comes to things like how to communicate with people on LinkedIn. And in fact, why we do this very manual outreach process in the beginning is to be able to surface a lot of these things. So what we want to do is start with your ideal client and their dream outcome. We're going to pull these things out and start to map out this journey. To say, there's the ideal client over there. There's their dream outcome over here, and in between is the transformation that we're offering them. Okay. So if I had to think about your ideal client, where they are in their journey is they've got some hopes, dreams, and aspirations that they are wanting to go and hunt down. But in the middle, they've got obstacles. They've got problems that are in the way. Right. And that is why they need you, is because without you, this is the reason why they're not able to get to their dream outcome. It's because there's stuff in the way. These are boulders, by the way. They also look a bit like bread rolls, but for the sake of those, before those are those are boulders. So if we had to start, from talking to you previously, I know that your ideal client is going to be entrepreneurs that are kind of feel like they're being held back a little bit by their bodies. Do you want to elaborate a little bit more on that in terms of like, who is your ideal client?
Yeah, definitely the person who knows that they're not feeling as well as they used to. So they're seeing their productivity go down. They're seeing their creativity go down. They might be embarrassing themselves in the fact that they just have, like the brain fog issues, or they're not bringing the energy that they used to, or their team is seeing them start to slide backwards and not really be able to uphold their responsibilities the way that they used to, because their body is failing them in a sense. And they actually might be at the beginning of a disease. Autoimmune disease runs rampant with entrepreneurs. And sometimes it's, not quite as bad as that, but it's something that can be be addressed, be fixed.
Fantastic. Right. So these are all the kind of underlying issues. These are the problems, and often these are the symptoms. This is what your your ideal client is looking at. Now I'm going to give you a couple of other dimensions to your ideal client, especially in these early stages. One of the things is your ideal client must be able to afford your service, right? This initial stage, and typically in the evolution of the consulting or practitioner spaces, you can either go high price, low volume, one-to-one, or low price, group, wide ranged kind of programs. Now, I suggest in the beginning we look at doing high ticket offers to people that can afford them, especially because in these early stages, the marketing is going to be quite manual as we develop, as we break through that fog, as we really get to understand what are the actual problems, what are what are the actual dream outcomes. So one of the ideal client is they must have money to be able to easily afford your product. And one of the most frustrating things is finding people that have the problems but don't have the money. All right. So with that, if we want to break that down, is there any specific career progressions, things like job titles, things like that, job titles, industries, things like that that might spring to mind?
Yeah, industries, usually, they're fairly small business owners. They might have a small team, 5, maybe 10. Industries, I haven't really been able to pinpoint anyone specifically. They are usually just online. I'd have to say that's probably the biggest thing, online business owners. Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. I'm going to share in this training a worksheet that you can go through and fill out to give you some of the characteristics of things like, so you said online. So things like, industries, ages, genders, these types of things. Because when we go into LinkedIn, now, the reason I like to start with LinkedIn is out of all the social media platforms, it's the easiest place to go and find people, right? Because people are on LinkedIn to generally either do business or get a job. And for that reason, they have the biggest set of information in the profile. Unlike Facebook or Instagram, where you're not always even 100% sure who it is you're talking to. So if we had to look at LinkedIn, I'll just give you a quick overview of sort of a little bit of the technical aspects of how to actually go and find people on LinkedIn. And one of the easiest ways to start off with, let's just go and say founder. Okay, so I'm just going to type the word founder into the search box over here. And what it's doing is it's searching all of LinkedIn, including profile names, comments, descriptions, basically all of LinkedIn, every piece of text, and it's found all kinds of stuff. And you can start to see the kind of things that are searchable in LinkedIn. You can search for people, companies, jobs, groups, posts, schools, courses, events, services, and filters. All right. Now, generally what we're going to do is let's start with people. If you click on people, what you'll see is there's 6,800,000 people that have the word founder somewhere in their profile. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, might be a little bit more than we need initially. 6.8 million is a little bit tricky to kind of get your head around, but we can then filter by connections, and let's go look at first level connections. You can see, okay, great. There are 1,400 people in my network that have the word founder connected. Right. So you can also then filter down by locations. Let's look at Scotland, for example, and you can see how we can start nailing down, zooming into 405 people. Fantastic. You can also look at things like current companies, but let's go spoiler alert, you can click on all filters and see all the different filters. So you can see locations, you can see company, you can see past companies, you can see schools, you can also see industries, you can see profile language, you can see whether or not they're open to pro bono consulting. You can also see what service categories, and then you can also just search keywords in here as well. Now, what you can also do when you start to see is you can combine words over here to say, for example, founder and speaker. Now, we'll get a little bit technical. If I put founder speaker, what it'll do is it'll show everyone that's got either founder or speaker. If you put plus founder plus speaker, what that will do is include both. You can see it's gone down to 39. Okay. So those are the filters that you can start to use to narrow down and basically navigate LinkedIn. So if we go back to your ideal client, having an idea of the industries that they're in, the kind of things that they talk about, gives you a pretty good clue. These are the raw materials that you can do to start building your searches. Okay. The other really useful thing to do is work backwards from people that you're already clients, that are already your dream clients, and go and see. Let's just look at Mel Sherwood, for example. She's probably not a bad prospect for you, because she is a founder. She's a speaker, pretty badass entrepreneur, and if you look at LinkedIn, so now let's look at a LinkedIn profile and start to see what the elements are. So the main thing obviously is the name. After that, you've got your description. So all of these are searchable elements. And you can start to see the language patterns that people start to use: pitch and presentation skills and founder at the red effect, empowering entrepreneurs and business professionals to be more read and present themselves with confidence online and face-to-face. So you can use with the words like founder and confidence in your search parameters and start to find people that talk about different types of things. You can see, right, so there's this bit over here is about LinkedIn have this thing called creator mode at the moment, which is them basically going after the creator space. So you can do live broadcasts, and you can also activate the newsletter functionality. It's not going to make or break, but it's just nice to know that it's there. You can see, of course, things that Mel has posted on recently. So, and you can also see featured articles or featured posts. Really powerful thing to do. And I'm going to show you how we use these to basically start showing up as the kind of people that they want to do business with. Right. So seek first to understand, then to be understood. Right. So we've got, and of course, background image. So we've got nice picture, name, description, featured posts, about. And that is pretty much like the funnel in terms of the most important things on LinkedIn, your LinkedIn profile. There's a whole bunch of other stuff from there, but those are the sort of diminishing returns after that. But the nice thing is you can also see what their experience is. You can see the kind of things that they comment on. You can see things like education. You can see what licenses and certifications they might have. And of course, all of these things are searchable fields. Right. So it's a bit like peeling an onion, where you start somewhere, start to find people. And as you start to get a little bit deeper into the market, you're going to start to understand how to get better and better filters and how to navigate more closely to the people that you're wanting to speak to. Okay. You can see recommendations, you can see projects, honors and awards. You can also see organizations that they're part of, and also influencers or people that they follow. Right. So the first job at the moment is to start looking for using the search functionality to find these ideal clients. And we've seen how you can use the search. And one of the things I love about LinkedIn is it's so powerful. You can search literally all of LinkedIn and see how quickly it was to find people. If you know what you're looking for. And that's why it's so important to do the groundwork, to go and look at your existing clients and map out that, what are the potential job titles, what are the potential interests and things that they could be looking at. Right. The other thing that's useful to do, if we go back to the search functionality, and the thing is, your ideal client, when they're experiencing these things, right, these frustrations, will start to exhibit a kind of problem-seeking behavior. Okay, they might use certain words that they use, things like low energy, brain fog, needing coffee, right? Supplements, maybe. These are the kind of solution-seeking behavior, right? And all of those things you can search for people for a given job title and a given industry that are talking about certain things, right? Those topics. The other useful thing, from your perspective, like the gut, I'm just going to use gut biome as an example. And let's not look for people, but let's look for posts instead and see if there's any posts that are talking about the gut biome. All right, and this is useful for two different reasons. One is that you can see if there's people that are talking about that, but also these are opportunities for you to go and comment on people's posts. All right. The other one that would be useful is also events. Okay. This is not a particularly good one. No gut, no horse. Why bugs are essential for optimal health. Okay. So that's horse gut biome. Okay. The reason events are useful is because you can go and attend those events, but also go and network and connect with other people that are also attending those events. Okay, so these are all different ways of starting to find people, connect, find the people that you want that are your prospective customers, and using LinkedIn search capabilities to be able to do that. And as you can see, I've done all of this with just the free version of LinkedIn. Okay. It does limit the number of searches you can do per day. So I think it's like 50 or something like that. That's again why it's useful to do, start off with your existing clients and reverse engineer some of those searches back there. This is not a sprint. This is not a marathon. This is a marathon, not a sprint. So you're not going to necessarily find all the things on the first day, but I would say probably spend 20 minutes a day, every day, going through this process. So for me, what I'm doing, so if I do plus coach plus speaker plus mind or mindful, I can get a pretty good, if I go for my second level connections. So first level connections will be people you can have a conversation with fairly simply, easily, because they're already connected. So let's just go here. Right, so there's 3 people over here. BS free, well-being to make you badass at work, mental fitness coach. That's an awesome person for me to go and speak to. Right? That's a very easy connection. We're already connected, and those are, that's a very easy connection for me to go and start communicating with. This guy, I think he's already commented on some of my posts and things like that. So that's been pretty easy. I think she's coming to an event as well. So these are all my first level connections. Let's go mindful, or just coach plus speaker is a pretty good one. So these are people I would go and have conversations with. And what I would do is just bookmark this page. So every day I could go in and just go and chat to a couple of these folk. Second level connections are people I would go and start having connections with. Right. Okay, so this is all. Okay. Now your second level connections. So let's go Fabio over here. Fabio. And what I'm doing over here is just, kind of use your gut feel and just be like, is this someone that I want to speak to? Right. In fact, anyone who's a speaker, founder will probably be a pretty good. And just open a couple of these guys and just go and have a look at. If we're going to go and approach, so with people that are your existing connections, this goes a lot easier. People that are second level connections is where you start to build your network. Now, once you've decided your ideal clients, who your ideal clients are, you'll find that you have a certain number of existing connections, your ideal clients, and there might be an overlap. If there's an overlap, just start talking to them.
Yeah.
Okay. If there isn't an overlap, then you need to start connecting to people. Right. Now, when you start connecting to people, you can eventually start to automate this, but I prefer in the beginning to get very, very specific, right? Because one of the key things about your ideal client is they should be people that you actually want to talk to. And people that you actually, they're going to be in your life for a while. So these searches and things are great, but after that, I want to get a sense of like, are these people I actually want to talk to? Is there something I actually want to speak to, actually want to go and have a conversation about? Now, when we start to open a conversation, people sometimes forget that we're talking to human beings here. Okay, so let's use this lady over here. So as an exercise, let's imagine that you're at a networking event, like a face-to-face actual networking event. Okay. All right. And, you've just gone up there and you've got your cup of coffee, you're standing around awkwardly because you don't know anybody yet. And you look around and you see this lady over here who's also standing around awkwardly.
Okay.
What do you say to her?
Hi, I love your earrings.
Amazing. Okay. That easy, right? Okay. Okay. That easy to start a conversation. Now, if it's that easy to start a conversation, what do you know? What if she had a name badge on that says that she was the CEO of Great Expectations? Would that help you to start a conversation?
Yeah, I would eventually ask what about it, what it was, what they did, that kind of thing.
Fantastic. And I love what you naturally did is you started a conversation about anything other than business. Okay. And that's a natural human conversational thing to do. Okay. That's also what very rarely happens. It happens very infrequently on LinkedIn, because generally what you get is these messages that are like, hey, me, buy my stuff.
Right.
Let's just see. I have a lot of messages that are kind of outgoing at the moment. This guy, he's actually not bad. But, hi, be good to connect, seeing your post and discovering more about what you do. Me. This is an automated message sequence.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's all me.
Yeah.
And this is the kind of automated stuff that happens a lot on LinkedIn at the moment. And people are triggered by it.
Right.
Yeah, there's Andy. I remember I said Andy was busy chatting to me.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you want to kind of get used to just doing, connecting, getting to know people on a personal basis, and, almost want to like, oh, wow, okay, he's done a video over there. Start just to have a connection about anything other than business, right? Mm-hmm. Just have a chat. Now, this is not scalable at this level of the game, right? Which is why it's so important to choose your target market carefully in the first place. And also bear in mind that you're going to start with your high ticket process, because all of this effort is not worth it if you're selling something that is not going to give you a big payoff, right? But in the beginning, getting to know the people, starting to understand what are the outreach, what are the external indicators that you might find it's people that, different kinds of posts that they do. And you can see how many amazing cues you've got to start talking about things like, earrings, recent events, stuff that they've posted. Super, super easy to start having a conversation, right? And this conversation about non-business starts to build rapport. It's just how we, as humans start to connect, and it starts to build trust. Okay, backwards and forwards. Hey, how are you? How are you? What's going on? No, backwards and forwards. I call it chit chat. Right? But the function of that is to build rapport. Okay, and there's lots of ways you can build rapport. Conversation is one of them. Very simple. It's almost like deposits in the emotional bank account. Very easy things to do is just go in there and just like what some of the stuff that they've done. How long did that take? 0 time. Okay, but you know what it feels like when someone likes your post. It's like, you get a little, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Slightly bigger deposit would be nice post, great post, thanks for sharing. It's not going to change your life, but it's a little bit of a bigger deposit. Mm-hmm. A slightly bigger deposit would be some kind of insightful, like you actually read it and you're like, I really love Brene Brown too. Right. Love your take on this. The bigger deposit would be in a more insightful question. Okay, where it's like you've read it and you're actually asking something that's going to go a bit deeper. Now, this stuff all works best if there are people you're actually interested in, mm-hmm. and people you can actually do business with. Yeah. So this is all the foundational stuff about getting to know who the people are, what the external indicators are. Okay, these are all deposits. You're making deposits, building rapport, and what building rapport does once you've made enough deposits is you can then start opening the gap, right? And the gap is the distance between where they are and where they want to be. Okay? People are not going to share their problems with strangers. But after a little bit of chat and a little bit of rapport, you can start to transition to questions like, what are your plans for this year? What is your plans for 2020? All right, so you started off initial chit chat. Hey, how are you? How are you is a terrible question because it takes so much energy to respond. But love what you're doing with this, love what you're doing with that. Tell me more about this. Tell me more about that. Backwards and forwards. Chit chat. You can do things like reflecting, mirroring, what I've just heard you say. Hey, I saw you did this. I saw you did that. I wouldn't get too technical about this at the moment, but just kind of if you just have conversations with people that you're actually interested in, you start with the job titles and things to make sure that they actually can afford your program in the first place. Mm-hmm. But then start to invest in that. Now, once you start to get a bit of chit chat going, a bit of backwards and forwards, you can transition into establishing the gap. Right. What is your goals? Where do you want to be? All right. And what's in the way? Now, at this point, you might take the conversation offline. Right. And you might actually transition into something quite different. Now, let me explain this by an actual example. All right. So here's David Moss. So David Moss, he's a coach. He actually has a coaching company. So he showed up in that coach plus speaker filter of mine. Okay. He's a accredited coach and trainer. And I started to have a bit of a chat. He posted, they post quite a lot. And I'm just going to go through this and highlight the elements. All right. You can see there's been quite a lot of chit chat. Okay, all right. So here's my initial connection message. Yeah. This is how I'm connecting to people. I'm reaching out to light bringers and change makers. People make a difference in the world. If that describes you, then let's connect. Right. So this light bringers thing, it's something I talk about quite a lot. That is legitimately what I'm about. And people that resonate with that, those are the kind of people I'm likely to have a conversation with. Right. So you can, if you do want to connect, one of the first and quickest ways to fast, or the most profound ways to fast track this, is to connect based on your cause rather than your product or service. Okay. So here's the stages. I'm reaching out, connect based on cause. He came back. What a dashing picture. That's such an Nan comment. Great to connect. Now I'm mirroring, rock and roll. That headshot, best 60 pounds I ever spent. Get to jam out in my jammies. The profile picture makes me look like I'm sophisticated. Nice pick yourself, mate. I know the art of illusion only too well. Kick back. Now I see there's some back and forth here. And what I like is that I like this guy. Okay. So it's easy to go backwards and forwards. All right. So I said smooth. Now I can feel there's already a buzz. So I asked him, what are you working on just now? Oh, I'm writing emails for a nurturing campaign today after the Starbucks. How about you? And you can see what I'm doing is for each, if he writes me two lines back, I'm writing 2 lines back. I'm not writing with a war and peace. I'm just mirroring kind of more or less the conversational tempo. Right. And he said, how about you? Now here I went back a little bit more. And like, this was what I was actually doing. Right? Like, what are you doing? I'm actually telling you. And then, but I've given a bit of thing to say, good that you're working on, now I'm reflecting back, good that you're working on a nurturing sequence. My ears prick up. He's writing a nurturing sequence. I'm like, I see the marketing force is strong with you. What's your lead magnet? I'm asking another question, going better, going deeper. Does it sound better? I'll take your word for it. Yes, we're in the business of personal growth. So it's kind of a commitment in the long-term nurture, hence the nurturing sequence. We have a weekly podcast. You see how much great stuff he's giving me.
Yeah.
Mind Power Masterclass, private Facebook groups. And I'm like, yes, this is my dude. Right. This guy might as well told me, that he doesn't take any vitamins and he's like got, chronic fatigue syndrome and has trouble getting to sleep at night. Right. Then I'm going, sorry for the slow response. Love a masterclass. Okay. And otherwise it'd be, so then I said, oh, he's done a masterclass. I said, oh, that's amazing. You've got a masterclass. I've got an event coming up. I'm sharing only my stuff in as much as he's sharing me with his stuff. I said, okay, what's the uptake been like? And you see now that the conversation has started to transition to a business thing. 70 people signed up, et cetera, et cetera. Oh, I see on demand slick. I've actually signed up for his masterclass at this point because I know this is my dude. Okay. He's a coach. He teaches other coaches. He's got all this marketing stuff going on. And I'm like, yes. So because of that, I'm investing more energy. And he's given me, you see all those external indicators that I'm like, yes, this is my dude. So now I'm speaking a little bit more. And he'd love my feedback. I signed up. I did actually watch the whole thing. I said, who's your target audience? Now I'm asking about, who he wants to connect with. He's giving me a whole bunch of detail. And because he's going backwards and forwards, I'm just going to carry on going backwards and forwards. But you see how I'm taking the story from, we're getting into quite detail into his, his business strategy. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then, then I started talking more about what I'm doing. And he said, hey, anything I could take a look at? I said, excellent, here's the site. And by the way, would it make sense for us to have a Zoom call? Now I'm taking the conversation offline. Short message, etc. So advice, stick it to the man. We booked a call. Long story short, so he booked onto a call. We had a great chat. Turned out he wanted to introduce me to his business partner. In the meantime, what I did is invited him to my scheduled webinar events. Came to the event. Long story short, there's the event. And as I'm sure you can see, that you can surmise at some point, we had a question, I met his business partner and he's now a client. Right. You'll probably meet him at some point. Him and Sean are amazing.
Great.
Okay. But that's kind of the whole process. Now, I probably had to send probably 100 connection messages to get that full thing. Right. But because I started off by finding people that are the right people in the first place, it makes sense to make that kind of connection. Also, he is really cool, so it makes sense to have like that wasn't hard work. It was just good chat. So all those external indicators, the language patterns, all that, it's just you're looking for people that you're actually going to get on with. And then have a chat about them, transition that into where are you, where do you want to be? When they start giving you those external indicators about the problems, ask more clarifying questions and go deeper. Again, you haven't said anything about your program at this point. It's all about them. And at some point, they might even ask you, what is it that you do? And that's where you transition into that. Right. And then in the sales call, what you would do is, or the discovery call or Zoom call, get a lot more deeper into that. And what you're then wanting to do, it works a lot easier on a call, is to unearth what is their desired outcome. Where do they want to be? Okay. And then in the context of all of that, share, okay, amazing. This is what my program looks like. And you're sharing what your program looks like, precisely tailored to where they want to go. And it'll feel like they built it, you built it, I made it just for you. Mm-hmm. And that's how you then close that's what we take care of in this third section, is the sales call. Now, so all these things work together. The first three, what Tobin would call the first three gears, but the first three milestones all work together. Your offer, your ideal client, their ideal outcome, and all of this, these other three things basically relate to how well you map the route for your ideal client to his ideal outcome. Okay. Your signature solution then is where you take your ideal client, their dream outcome, and you map what are the problems that they have, organize them into the optimal solution. So the problems that they have, organize them into the optimal solution, solve them in the right order, and then give them cool, funky names. Mm-hmm. Okay, which is what then becomes your signature solution. Right. And that only happens after a few repetitions. So kind of go, you might have multiple of these calls before it starts solidifying into a signature solution. You've got the short method already, so I'm not going to go too much into that. Like, you're already a badass, so you've got that handle. But in terms of your, your sales calls, like all the appointment accelerator, your discovery calls, the basic narrative arc, where are you now? Like, what are the symptoms? Where do you want to be? What's in the way? And your price anchoring against, where do you want to be? What's that worth to you? And if you can have discussions around what is that worth to you, the financial outcome of that thing, and especially if you're talking to entrepreneurs and things like that, anything that you can elaborate that for them, but then also start to have them think about what that would be worth. You don't, get them to start talking about money. You can ask questions, but you're asking them. Then we look about what's in the way, and I love to record all of these calls. What's in the way? They're going to give you in their own words what's in the way, which you're going to take and feed back into your signature solution, into your, into the journey, but also that's going to start becoming your social media content. Okay, because that's where they are in the journey. They don't actually understand the problem. What they're looking at is the symptom. Why do I feel shit when I wake up in the morning? Why do my joints ache? Why is my back sore? Why can't I lose weight? Okay. People don't talk about that stuff on social media, but what they do, is you can see who they are, find the right people. So in your sales calls, once you've had that discussion with them and you've built or opened up the gap, these problems are what you can then start to add onto your into your social media. Okay, share what you've learned. That's what you do. Share what you've learned. And when you share sharing what you've learned, and that's where we start to build the bridge to say, okay, all of your people, there they are, but they're trying to get to you, right? So they're kind of stuck on the one side of this bridge here, okay, and they're trying to get to you so you can help them get up the mountain. So the first thing to do is help them become aware. They're over here, and what they're looking right at is the problem. Okay. All right. you like my explanatory diagrams?
Yeah. Great.
Okay. And that's so having these conversations is where you unearth what the problem is, and it's the problem in their world, not. Because where this doesn't work is when you go online and say, here's my cool program, here's my cool thing, look how clever I am.
Right.
Flip side of that is, what is the problem? Okay, what is the problem? What is the possibility that I can offer people instead? Here's some simple things to do, and here's the next action. Here's a simple next action. Okay, and the simple next action, even in your social media stuff, is not about going, buy my stuff, but rather, what is the next step in the bridge? Okay, now it could be an email course, it could be your webinar fits really well into this, where they start to get a little bit, they start to get to know you a little bit more. Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is where we bring it all the way back to your LinkedIn profile, where once we know who your ideal client is, we know what their dream outcome is, and we know what the transformation is that you're offering, you start to build your profile so that it matches what those people look like, what those people are looking for. Okay, I help frustrated entrepreneurs who, have this problem, experience this ideal outcome without experiencing this undesirable other thing. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that, and it doesn't, let's go. All right. Yeah, so you can see, my profile, and I'm continually tweaking this. I help expert businesses do good and make money. Now let's do this a little bit deeper. So your funnel, so all of this background stuff, and do you know Kevin Monroe?
Sounds familiar.
Gratitude guy. In fact, let's look at David Ross, because David Moss. Okay, he's now been working with me for a while. Okay, so he's on this process. Helping people turn their experience into a business that helps others. Accredited online coach, make things happen. And here's, you can see he's now taken the next step, become a coach free masterclass. You see the call to action in the banner? Mm-hmm. Okay. And if you look at the featured post, you can see there's the free masterclass. Okay. So what you've done is, once you do your event, you take your post on the event and you make that a featured post. And the way you do that is simply, you obviously just posted on LinkedIn. Let's just go to my activity. And it's as simple as it really is very simple, I promise you. Activity, there we go, showable activity. My posts. And it's as simple as taking the post, clicking in here, and making it a feature on top of profile. Okay. Okay. So once you start to get into rhythm with this stuff, you start to see what the patterns are. You then you increasingly flip your profile so that it mirrors, for these people who want this, without this, I'm your goal. Here's the next step via the featured post to take the next step in the journey. Could be my free email course, could be my upcoming event, and downloading your event and making that a recorded masterclass, very easy thing to do. as a natural transition, because what you're then doing is building the next steps that they're in consideration, which is generally off platform. Could be an event, could be something like that. And from there, you're taking them into a decision process, which is like your sales call, and then from there into delivery. Okay. And then, yeah, so your social media posts, you're now sharing more about for those exact people who they are, because you're connecting and communicating more with those people that are your ideal client, and they're seeing stuff that's literally written just for them. You start to get more engagement and more traction. The other thing that starts to happen is you start to see who the influencers are in their market. Who are the people that post a lot? Who are the people that get a lot of comments and engagement? And from there, what you can do is start commenting and liking and using the same insightful questions process for the influencers. And your post and your profile, which is highly customized, is then seen by all those people. Because if you look at, any kind of comments or things like that, you see your smiley face and you see your headline and you see your job title. So when you start commenting on people that have 10,000 views of their post, guess what? All 10,000 of those people see you. So those are the different gears that start to accelerate more and more traffic through your website and traffic through your profile. And that's how you build the LinkedIn funnel. Cool.
Good. Yeah, I like that.
Fantastic.
That made so much sense to me. You really bridged the gap on some actions to take, but why? I needed that why. And I do appreciate your diagrams, your live diagrams. I'm a visual person. It was perfect.
Fantastic. I love me a diagram. Good stuff. No health KPI. So I think there's a natural opportunity there to say, take my scorecard or cheat sheet or something like that. Like a quiz funnel thing. It would be super, super useful to say, take my quiz funnel, and then in your featured posts over there, super obvious, here's the quiz funnel thing, off you go.